You may be a great mechanic. However, you must know that there's a difference between being a great mechanic and operating a great mechanic business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mastering Finance, the podcast. My name is Jerome.
My name is Nicholas X.
And today we have an exciting episode for you. Today we have a special guest, and he is going to help us navigate the topic of exploring the myths of entrepreneurship. And so we're going to dive right in, and I would like to introduce you guys to Ethan Moss. Ethan Moss, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Nicholas and Gerald. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So we're going to dive right in, Ethan. And so just let us know, let the audience know who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm the eldest of Dolores and Clayton. I am a Bahamian who loves his home. I'm a person who understands my responsibility to contribute to the development of my country, the way I raise my family, the way I serve my God, the way I make a difference in the area of my giftings and in business.
How did you get into entrepreneurship?
I think somehow it's the Crooked Island blood in me, but specifically, mentorship brought me to the place of making the decision to take a business risk. And what I mean by that is, my dad was a business owner, and I went to work for a Bahamian family in an industry that was distribution of goods for everyday living. And through that process, and with the idea of trying to, diversify my portfolio, if I may put it that way. In other words, make more money, looking for opportunities, then I realized that the mentoring and the training over the years prepared me for what would be the business we operate today.
When you mentioned Crooked Island. When you look at the family items versus the capital, do you find that there's more of an entrepreneurship mindset or a different mindset that leads to so many persons from the small islands coming as big entrepreneurs?
Well, I think wherever there is a problem to be solved, a business is lurking someplace in there. Wherever there's value to be created, a business is lurking someplace in there. And I think that, I was born in New Providence, but my dad tells stories of the hardships of the islands. And just getting goods and services was an issue. So it seemed that many people from the islands or the southern islands came and they did business, particularly around food stores and construction. And perhaps I just inherited some of that. I will tell you, if you look in my school yearbook, you will not see business.
But I gotta segue nicely into one of the first myths about entrepreneurship, which is most people think or would say that entrepreneurs are born. They're not created. So what do you think about it? What do you think about that?
I think it's both.
Elaborate on that.
They're born, and then, there is a lot of development that you have to anticipate and growth that you have to go through in order to take an idea that's a solution to a human problem, convert it into a process that delivers the value of that idea to the people who will purchase it at the price you want to charge. So the ideas are born, the gifts and the ability to do it. I believe we're given those things, but they're not in their refined state. You have to be intentional about going to school, developing your business acumen, and that's what I mean by going to school. Not a tertiary education institution, but the school of experience sometimes, the school of mentoring many times, and just the school of wanting to bring your solution to the market. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And so when you look at entrepreneurship, do you think there are unique ideas to this thing, or do you believe that everything's already known and we're just maneuvering within the landscape?
The people who are smart can navigate all of the annals of all of that, the depth of that question, right? What I do believe is, in life you have to be wise about anything that you do. And I once heard one of my pastors, actually, he made this point. He says, if you pay more than 10 bills a month, you are already in business. So it's an interesting way of thinking about the salary that you earn while you're working for somebody else, how you then apply that salary to the cost of your living to eke out a profit at the end. We may call it savings or we may call it investments. And in essence, you're not necessarily going to a brick and mortar place where you built or you're leasing, but what you're doing is you're managing even the business of your home. So I think that everybody in life is going to be in business at some stage and at some level, no matter what you do in life, whether you work for somebody else or whether you take a product or service and you bring it to the marketplace, and that turns a profit for you.
That's excellent. So all of us on this island, and when it comes to that, and has probably used your company services or something like that. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about how did you decide to get into that industry? How did you create your company? How did you know to even start it? Well, what drove you to say, I'm going to start this business?
So again, I'm working for this wholesale retail distribution company, very well known in the Bahamas. Myself and a couple of my friends, we were looking for ways to diversify and make money. All right.
Well, the audience who doesn't know my name, what is your business?
So today I'm in the fuel retailing business. At least that's the product that most people associate what we do with. Petroleum retailing with convenience stores. And our newest addition is what has become, I believe, the freshest thing on the island in terms of the modeling, the Gladstone Road location. And that in itself is the brainchild of how do we bring other businesses together to make one offering to customers, again, who will pay the price for being our customers, right? So we're in the fuel retailing business. I think we're the largest single retailer of petroleum products in the Bahamas, I think, as a retailer. And, close to 200 team members. We have a footprint in a few of the family, Exoma. We have 2 locations there. And one may be as big as one dispenser. And footprint nonetheless. And actually it's per pound, it's my most profitable operation.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
See, with the audience.
Per pound, relatively speaking, right? Yeah.
So for the audience, JMEL Enterprises, which reflects Rubus's, how many locations are we talking about?
Okay, so we're talking 9. And JMEL Enterprises is the corporate entity that manages all of that.
What was the first location?
Faith Avenue and Fire Trail Road.
When was that?
In the year 2000.
Why did you decide? Were you in the field before?
No, I was in retail distribution of groceries, and I worked as an accountant. My training is in accounting. Not as smart as you though, but it's in accounting. And again, through mentoring, my first, I'll just say it too, I worked at Milo Butler and Sons for about 16 and a half years. And Franklin Butler was my business mentor. He was my employer. To me, he was mentoring me. So, and I really got a lot of clarity on why my father's business failed by working there and being mentored. And then the thing that I like to make clear with people, when you think of JMEL Enterprises Limited and you think of the 9 Rubus locations we either franchise, manage, or operate from, what's most important to us is not the gasoline or the convenience store items. Because those are things that we sell or distribute in our business, but it's not the business of our business. And the business of our business is the key for why we have the footprint and the locations that we have.
And especially because I thought it's great to understand the history. So earlier we touched on another myth, which was that you mentioned being in a job and using the funds to pay bills, right? And one of the myths that people have about entrepreneurship is that you have to take the leap. You have to go all into a business and leave that job behind. But you explained or shared with us that you started out, at Milo Butler. So I guess my question to you is, as we sort of segue and touch on that particular myth, was it all in deep for you? Did you gradually build up to it during applying phase? How did that?
The planning of JMEL Enterprises took about 2 years, right?
Okay.
It took 2 years in terms of the planning and the risk assessment, as you know, your audience may use those kind of business and finance terms, looking at the model, investigating it. Actually, to get the first retail license, I went through 5 interviews with Texaco at the time, and so you know, if there's one thing I'd like to encourage business thinkers around is please don't be anxious to get in business. Be anxious to get to know yourself.
Say that again, because that's very, very.
Yeah, what?
Don't be anxious to get in business. Be anxious to get to know yourself. One of the greatest challenges and one of the learning things for me over the years is that business will expose your weaknesses. So if you are starting a business and you want to grow sales and you think the idea is that let me grab social media and get it out there, be very careful, because once you get on social media will expose the weaknesses in your business, which will expose the weaknesses in you as it relates to operating a business. So make sure that you're ready. Don't be anxious to get started, but be prepared, obviously, to get started.
So how would somebody, what's your advice to somebody, how they know they're ready?
It's that point when you've done, you know that you're thorough in your planning, you've got your business model, you've got your financial projections, and it's that point where in your gut you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I have this good job and this, you know, the medical is there, the advancement opportunities are there, or maybe I just got done with school and somebody graced me with the ability to help with capital, but you're sitting in the moment of, okay, get started.
Right.
And the questions of why are you doing this? So if anybody asks and they come to me, and people often do, the first thing I say, and it's going to shock you, audience, but hear me out. The first thing I say is, don't get in business to make profit.
That's actually a myth we were going to address. That's perfect that you said that. Then we get you right into that. Why do you say that?
Don't get in business to make profit. Get in business because you're bringing a solution to the marketplace and make profit to stay in business. In other words, the priority of profit in business, my business school, my advisors, my teachers are going to think I've gone off my rocker. Because what is business except to make profit, right? Please make profit, don't get me wrong, but don't get in business to make profit. Get in business to bring the solution that you envisioned in the area that you envisioned, to bring it to the market at a value where your customers are prepared to pay your price for it. That's why you must get in business. And once you are there, then make sure that you are engaging in business activities that yield a profit that allows you to stay in business. Most business people will not tell you that if they make 10%, 15%, 20%, that they definitely have to reserve some part of that, if not the majority of it, depending on the cash intensity requirements for the business, to reinvest in the business. It always sits in equity. You can't take it out, because the day you do, and there's a bump in your business, you become a statistic.
Yeah, I agree. So, for someone who's so successful as you are, how did you just notice that there was a need? How did you go about assessing that? Was it just one day you were driving and, man, it was just too much cars and I couldn't get gas? Or maybe I was just stopping to get some water and it was just too many people. What was it that made you say, there's something here that I do?
Well, I'll tell you why we chose the business that we chose, because the modeling at the time said that we could make money. But oh, what a lesson. The first year, absolutely net loss. But I think your question is a brilliant one, because in the preparation, what you have to do is you have to look for the opportunity. It's okay if all of us want to be chefs, right? And the way you do your stew is different from the way you do your soup, and different from the way I do my whatever the case is. The first thing is, will the customer pay for that difference at a level that makes me happy, is bankable for me? And so with that sort of thinking, what we found ourselves doing was, and what I found myself doing was, okay, Ethan, listen to the problems that customers who come to gas stations, to your point, what are your experiences when you go to a gas station? And is that point of, is what you want to solve, or the point of irritation that you have, if that is something that you can solve, can you bank that solution? And so for us at JMEL Enterprises, when we got into business, 2000 yes, in the year 2000, when we got into business, there was such a huge cry for customer service at gas stations. Huge cry. It's worse now. So there's greater opportunity. But there was such a huge cry. And what we took the time to do is to kind of understand what people meant by customer service. And the instant we figured out what people meant by customer service, JMEL went about making sure that that is where we focused our attention. So our attention was not placed on being good gas station operators. Our attention was placed on how do we solve the problem of customer service. And one of the things that I will share with you and your audience is never solve problems at the level they're created.
Who's it?
So customer service for us in the year 2000 and maybe around between 2000 and 2002 was not about something that you did. In other words, we could take our CSRs, give them a squeegee.
And those are customer service representatives.
Yeah, customer service representatives. Give them a squeegee and say to them, every customer that comes, make sure you clean their glass. Right? Say good morning. Offer to get a drink at the store for them so that they don't have to come with their vehicles. And I discovered that everybody else was being told that's what you have to do to distinguish yourself as customer service. Here's what nobody ever, well, in our experience, few people were doing. Why would the person who's working in the hot sun, getting dirty, squeegeeing somebody's car, why would they do that? And for the most part, they were making minimum wage. Why? The only reason they will do it is because they see something bigger than the pain of offering the customer service that's in it for them. So we started to figure out what's in this for my team member.
Right.
To the point where we even stopped calling our employees. We started calling them team members. To the point where today, I'll give you a secret, we're about to take our name badges and rather than say, just put the person's name, we're going to put owner.
Do what?
That's a
Because why would somebody for minimum wage clean somebody else's car glass?
Tip? The $2 they may get, the $3 they may get.
It's amazing. That's not why they want to do it. They need the tip, but that's not why they want to do it. Do your studies. Studies will tell you that people are looking for appreciation. They're looking for self-actualization. They're looking to be valued as employees or as team members. So what we did was, how do we increase the team members' value so that the work that they did is work that they are proud to do?
That goes into another myth. It says that most persons go into business or they only hire their staff and they're all motivated only by money. And so everyone's only motivated by money at all levels, owner to the staff. But as you mentioned, and if anyone's dealt with staff or hiring, you realize money is the biggest factor, but it's not the only factor. There are persons who have taken pay cuts because it allows them more flexibility with their family. Yeah. Persons have taken other jobs that they may have not liked, but they have better benefits. There are persons who stayed in government their entire life just to get pension. So there's a lot just to get, just so they can get access to their pension. So you're looking at a situation where not everyone's sort of affected by money. It may be a string outside of it in the spider web of it, but there are so many other factors that go into what makes an employee or an owner happy. When you look at that, what sorts of things do you look at Well, besides even the ones just mentioned, what do you look at as an employer to say we can motivate us out?
I'll say this, gents. There's so much work being done in this area, right? And at JMEL, and particularly myself, the only value I create for people is their human value. Most young men just want to be respected.
That's a big.
So how do you take this idea that if you respect a man or woman, and they are working with you to achieve an objective, what is it that they want from you? They just want you to treat them as though they're a human being who deserves respect. So any one of my team members could call me on my cell phone and say, Mr. Moss, I want to talk to you, and can come and talk to me about anything that they think I can give them advice on. And most often they don't take me up on it. You know what is most important to them? That they have the access to be able to do it.
So you mentioned males just now. What do you think motivates females traditionally when you're assessing and looking into how to motivate or increase morale? How do you assess that?
Same opportunity. And so for females, in my experience, it's been creating an environment where they feel safe. Creating an environment where they don't feel as though they have to be abused in order to advance. Creating an environment where they will be heard. Creating an environment where their views and opinions on stuff is valued. So when we crafted our vision statement, for instance, our vision statement, listen to it very carefully. We are an incubator for management, ownership, and leadership. Nothing about gas.
And I saw it on your website. That was pretty interesting. And to talk about it now, it seems like the approach you guys took was you understood the model, you understood the product, right? What you took the approach of solve people problem, and the service is a byproduct of that, which gets you to profitability.
I need to hire you. You got it just perfectly right. It took me 24 years to figure that out the way you said it. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And so the office where we're at now, for instance, everything in that office is designed to cause it to be a learning, growing, and changing environment. We no longer call our gas stations service stations. We call them training and development centers, because all we're after is for that young man who comes from the most deprived situation to understand that his situation doesn't define him. That young lady who has made decisions and gotten involved in things that she regrets, that those things are not as important as what's ahead of her based on what's really on the inner side of her. And that's what our business is formed and fashioned to do.
So you mentioned it took me 20 years to learn that. You've been in business for 5 to 7 years. So your experience allows you to understand that and hear that information and quickly assess that and come with the great outputs. Experience. When it comes to entrepreneurship, they usually say entrepreneurs trust their gut. But I hear a lot about experience. How do you decide when to trust your gut or where to go out and get information from persons? How do you decide to navigate that?
Well, listen to your gut. When it tells you to go get information, go get it. When it tells you that something isn't right, it doesn't mean that everything is wrong. It just means to figure out what that thing that is not right is. I think we make too much of a deal of it. Trust your gut, experience, etc. For me, it was mentorship. Mentorship where the individuals who I looked to be mentors weren't even aware that I was particularly looking at them or watching them for the mentoring, right? It was what happened inside of me that I began to have questions, queries, and to search for answers. It also caused me to think, all right, Ethan, well, what are you bringing to the table? Your gut feel, the experience, all those things are necessary. We are human beings. We are designed with discernment. We're designed to make sure that we, what they call it, this mother's wit thing, or all of this stuff works to help you to bring out and to refine whatever that solution is that you bring to the earth, and all of us do. And if you want to be an entrepreneur or in business, how do you then take it, turn it into activities that produces the ability for you to stay in that? That's really what it's about at the end, in my view.
So Ethan, one of the other myths that a lot of people have is that, going into entrepreneurship, it allows us to create your schedule, work less. How have you found that?
There's a quote there's something I coined that I try to help people with, and I put it this way: you may be a great mechanic, However, you must know that there's a difference between being a great mechanic and operating a great mechanic business. And the problem is most great mechanics don't know that. So there is, in Ethan's world, there is no such thing as a small business. Now, Nicholas in a former life, well, he will throw me out the room. There is no such thing as a small business. There may be levels of which your business operates at or turns over revenue and income. But the same effort that's required at what is the large business level is exactly the same level of effort at the small business level.
I completely agree. Warren Buffett says he uses the same skill to assess purchasing one share of a company versus buying the entirety of the company.
Absolutely.
The same value of percentage return on one share will be for the entirety. So
Absolutely.
it gets serious when you're looking at a one share versus 10 million shares, you're going to not succeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree that is a reality.
And then as you transition from the place where you're working for somebody else and you have this idea and into entrepreneurship and running your own business, we have this weird concept that the energy and the effort that you put into that, those pain points, that your customer's going to pay for those pain points.
So that kind of jumps into something we were talking about. But when we first agreed to the show, and we were very thankful for it, we were sitting down debating what we should ask and not ask. Yeah. So we're talking margins, and we're talking about how to navigate your customers' demand in your field where there are confined profit margins, and there are so many external factors, countries and world that affect your business. How do you navigate that? And to the consumer as well, how do you navigate all of those different strings people? Sure.
Nicholas, Jarrell, and audience, please, if you can hear my heart, listen to my heart very carefully. The first challenge I would offer to anybody who's thinking about getting in business, and even those who may find themselves in business and trying to figure out what to do, the first thing I would say is, for goodness sake, be honest with yourself about what is bank for you. What is it that you want at the end of the day, after all the effort, after all the sacrifices, you want to be able to say, this is the dollar amount that I want in my bank account. And whenever I do this exercise, I always find it interesting that, and I ask the question, what do you want to bank at the end of the year as that shows that you've been successful? This magical number of $1 million always comes up. It always comes up. Well, enough times that it got my attention. Yeah. And so then I asked the question, so you're selling cakes because you're a great cake designer and yes. And you want to make $1 million at the end of the year, that's success for you, and yes, great. Do you know what the net profit rate of return, that's not in your accounting book, okay? Net profit rate of return. Do you know what that rate is for your industry in the marketplace where you are? In other words, if that $1 million is 10% of a number, that number being the sales dollars that you have to create
in order to generate
$1 million, that means that you have to generate $10 million of sales in selling cakes. Do you think that you can create $10 million worth of sales? No, sir. Well, either you got to do one or two things. Make sure that your net profit rate of return is more than 10%, or get out of business.
Hey, so the drill, man, how do you experience that from the beginning? Was that something you immediately knew, or something that you learned over time, or is it something you read and gathered beforehand?
Yeah, I made early on. That was definitely not on my radar. I mean, to be honest, I just thought about, hey, here's an idea. People must like it. Let's just do it. But you quickly realize, like Ethan says, that's not how it works. And so like me personally, I had these moments where I would be internal conversations, and I was caught between, whether I was trying to be too philosophical about it or not trying to be practical enough, and then I realized I need to merge two. And so a lot of the questions that Ethan mentioned that we've talked about, I think you think about, why are you doing this? What does success look like for you? What does that look like in a monetary form? And then you think about the value proposition that you're presenting to the market, understand why and something. And there's a pretty good example too from as a Jewish millionaire. I can't quite remember his name, but this what he had said is sort of broad, sweeping across the Jewish community and those present in business, which is that the primary reason why Jewish entrepreneurs, like Jewish businesses, generally speaking, do better than other entrepreneurs of different ethnicities because their approach is completely different. They look at business as a way to serve people, right? They think they harken it back to their religion. So the more and the better that they service people, the higher value they provide. Market, people are willing to pay for that satisfaction in a sense. And that's the premise of the business. And so with me and the businesses that I'm a part of, in addition to asking all those questions, I stress question, the one of the most important questions is, why are we doing this? Who are we serving? And is the product in its current hand enough for them to be satisfied with? And can we charge enough for that in order to be satisfied with the appetites and the thing we can do? And so I think what Ethan has mentioned in terms of the approach that, you take it, his action can be the way it would. I think people think, and I think a lot of it is social media, right? They see, a number of different images and videos and these things, and people who've achieved success. But what they don't show you is these private conversations that the entrepreneur or those successful entrepreneurs have with themselves to get a thorough grasp of what they want. So, I definitely think that's something that has to happen.
I completely agree. And that goes to our original conversation about family items. I find that there's a natural culture of entrepreneurship in family items because when you grew up, you didn't grow up just going to basketball camp. You may have worked at your auntie's cake shop, or you may have worked on if you're a brand in your uncle's building, you transport from the mainland, or you may be in your cousin's convenience shop. And I said that need for it. So they find solutions to meet. And so they're naturally developing these conversations, auntie talking to you, uncle talking to you. And so unfortunately, especially my experience in small business, a lot of persons are on social media. They're seeing these ideas on TikTok, Instagram, or I made 100,000 here, follow me. And so these little bit of trends, even at CPAD, I saw so many questions coming in, and the questions they're asking was based on what they saw online. Look at this. That's how the crypto market moves so quickly. And so you find that I find that, so I found that some of the best entrepreneurs are persons who are from the family islands, or persons who were raised around persons with that mindset of the family islands. So how do you recommend someone who's successful, a listener there who's a successful business, how should they help their community or provide mentorship to help those with that information that you provide?
It's a brilliant question. I appreciate that question more than I could articulate. Let me tell you something, gents. I learned somewhere in my journey that working on your business is more important than working in it. And the working on your business is also the hardest work that you can do because you have to slow yourself down, forget the profit, and as Jarrell highlighted, you have to make sure you're asking yourself the question, why am I doing this? Because, all of your decisions are going to drive your activity. And sometimes your decision is you've not decided on it, so that's driving your activity. And unless you have something greater than profit that is driving it, you're going to find that profit is elusive. Because I just believe this, the systems that we work in, they're not designed for our success. They're designed for us to be consumers of what is produced so that we depend on it, and then it sunks us. That's my kind of thing, right? So working on your business is more important than working in the business. Like I said earlier, I have the greatest regard for human body. It is not a curse. It is actually the blessing of God. Going after that human value or helping others to discover their own human value is why I sell gasoline. It's the only reason I do it.
I see it as such a paradox because I think most people just look at it as everyone drives a car, or most people drive a car. Then they got to go to the gas station. That's the driving force. No pun intended. But it's just so profound to hear you say that, and I'm curious, based on your comings and goings, what percentage of other businessmen think in that way?
In some form, I think we all think that we do it. But I'm driven from a different type of place. And what I mean by that is, I have this crazy notion that even when we do our accounting records, we would stop calling wages and we would stop calling the money that we pay to people to work with us wages and salaries. Somehow we'll find a way to put it on the balance sheet as an investment.
Because you're coming.
And that's why I'm careful in what I'm saying, right? Because in many circumstances, it is the largest. It represents on your profit and loss the largest expense on your profit and loss statement, and yet it is the one where I heard an entrepreneur who was so, he was so upset because he's hired people, he's given them an opportunity, and they were stealing from him. Right?
Comment.
And his comment was, I wish I didn't have to have employees. Gentlemen, can I tell you something? That sucked something out of me, because what he was saying was, so many people steal, why do it? And yet, my purpose is to go after an individual and say, look here, stealing is not the way to get what you're ultimately seeking to get. And that's tough to do when people are faced with what they're faced with in life, right? But I must tell you, when I share all the time that the very same young men who got started with me 24 years ago are senior managers in my operation. They make more money than bank managers. And I know because my wife was a bank manager, and I know how much she brought home. Nicholas, I said how much she brought home, all right? Good. And they get paid more than that. People are, what? At a gas station? Absolutely. Because the quest, and I'll get you, the quest wasn't to cause them to be good gas station operators. The quest was to cause them to find out who they were, who they are, and to take that learning or that understanding of who they are, creating value for it that's marketplace ready, and then causing that value to drive their quality of life. So today, going through all of the difficulties of life, their fathers who go to their PTA meetings and take care of their children, they operate their own businesses. One has a car rental business, and we support them in doing that. They're part of their church. Not perfect. Made tons of mistakes, but I can chart their development. And the young people who came through our organization that they impacted in ways that I couldn't impact because they believed in themselves.
So my follow-up question to that contradicts our earlier conversation. But just using this example, an owner of a company, he always used to carry his staff to the States for conferences, pizza parties, pay their NIB, just do above and beyond. And he found that his staff wouldn't even remember his birthday. His staff wouldn't remember so much things, or they wouldn't care about those. And so he said, man, why don't you believe in this vision, this business can grow and double, triple, and they're looking like my salary. Mm-hmm. And I just want to go home to my family. So how do you, as a leader, handle, what would your advice be to that person be?
Well, I would suggest, I don't know what the situation is it's probably good if that owner stopped, took a moment, asked himself the question, why am I taking them on travel trips and pizza and that sort of stuff like that? One. Two, if I'm doing it because I'm trying to help them to develop, their applause of my effort is not necessary. What's necessary is me being consistent with what I say is the reason why I am doing it. I can only tell you there are moments like I had 2 days ago where a former team member walks in my office doing fairly well, walks in my office, sits in the chair, and they say, well, Mr. Moss, I'm so happy I could still come and sit down and talk to you. And then the next words out of their mouth is, I get it. This is 6 years later.
There are lots of people the world over that you businessmen as the villain, as selfish. And I think based on our conversation, you present as a clear example that that's not true. So what advice do you have about the persons that are going into business, persons that are in business now, about how they approach their models in regard to people? How should they navigate that? I guess in a very simple manner.
And just to add to the question too, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they write their business plans, it doesn't speak at all about that. I know They just only they'll hire this person isn't trying to pay. So they don't take that into account what you're acting. So what's your thoughts?
I'm a bit of a, I'm a bit out there because I got these crazy ideas about how you value the value in people, right? And one of the things that I use to help me in my journey, for instance, when it comes to an activity in business like hiring, right? But I kind of guide my thinking this way. Ethan, first of all, will you hire yourself, knowing what you know about you, would you hire yourself to do the job that you're doing as president of the company? That's number one. Secondly, Ethan, hire people that need you to bring the best out of them. And simultaneously, hire people that you need to bring the best out of you. So if I hire a young man and statistically, or a young woman and statistically, most employees, especially because we deal with a lot of cash in our business, if I approach you as though you're going to steal, therefore I have the cameras to catch you stealing, then I am not appreciating the value in you. But if I use the cameras to help you to recognize that your behavior is something that you don't admit to yourself, then all of a sudden I don't use the cameras to catch a thief.
Right.
I use it to keep honest people honest.
That goes into advice I got when I first started working at small business. They said, as a leader, you have to decide how much discretion you give to your employees. So you want them to think, but you also want them to think in a confinement of where they should be able to get. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure what that means. Because the greatest asset that your team member brings to the table is their thinking.
It is, your thought would be very different from his, because his thought was, you don't allow that too much, because then they'll start thinking of ways to steal, because then they'll notice an issue, a hole in the process.
Yes.
So then utilize that.
And I think that's a myth.
So I'm sitting forward because I'm getting excited now, right? Do you know, gentlemen, that I am, as a business owner, if I can call myself that, because in my mind I'm just a steward of resources, right? But as a business owner, do you know that one of my greatest fears is for somebody to figure out that I am just as vulnerable as them? One of my team members says, Mr. Moss, what? You didn't get that right? No, I didn't get it right. I want your thinking to be activated, and if I put boundaries on your thinking, then I am setting myself up to shortchange you. Notice what I said. I'm setting myself up to shortchange you. So my deal is, I don't want to kind of put these parameters on. I know what business owners are, the advice, I know what they're saying. Be very careful that if you put somebody who is not trustworthy to manage the cheese, so to speak, you're going to have stealing. And I say to myself, and what if they change and they manage it so well that I don't have to, worry about that area? And not because they didn't have temporary insanity in their lives, but because, one, we helped them to identify it, and two, we gave them the challenge to fix that in their lives. So how do you take somebody who has had challenges? They come into the organization, in my case, they can't find work anywhere else. Young man, young woman, messed up. Worked at the bank and moved money. They're coming to cash in your organization because they can't find anything else to do. The first thing I must do with them is approach them as though they're a thief? No. The first thing that we do is we approach them as though they have value, and that thing of their past does not have to define them. Now notice what I'm saying. It's my approach to them. It's not them thinking of themselves. So the culture in our organization is not that we're managing thieves, or not that we're managing people who are unproductive, or not that we're managing people who come just to make a couple of dollars. The approach that we take is, this is an owner. I've got to treat this person as though they are an owner of some business or resources. I got to approach them as though they're the manager of the bank. I've got to approach them as though they are a leader. And if I'm approaching them as though they're a leader, when they come into my organization, the first thing that we do is show them how we make money.
So when you're looking at managing numerous branches, numerous locations, with numerous different staff, managers at each level. How does someone handle something like that? Is it you go from one location to another? How are you in deciding to open a new location? How do you find that different cultures exist between each location because of where they're situated or who the manager is? How do you handle all those different human elements when you're looking at opening a new branch, closing a branch, or hiring staff within there?
I made the statement that it's more important for me to work on my business and in my business. And the hardest thing for me to do is to drive past one of my operations and don't stop and try to fix everything that I see going wrong at that moment, right? How do I handle expansion and growth and deploying people and trying to create this culture and maintain this culture? I do it by simply going back to where I started. What is the business that I'm in? And so in our organization, we say that the training room is the most important room in the whole organization. So yes, when we had 2 or 3 locations, I was 3 hours here, 3 hours there, 3 hours to the next one. As we expanded, we had to centralize a lot of our back office functions and build in efficiencies like any growing business would have to do. But one of the things that, and COVID helped me to be very clear about this, and so I'm able to articulate it sitting here with you today. One of the things that is very clear to me, that the value of my time is spent with the leaders in the organization at the various levels of growth and creating the programs, the processes to culturalize that. You know, when you operate the type of business that we do, 24/7 operation, 3 shifts a day, in a business that, globally, you don't have this number of employees that we have because it's self-serve in most of the other environments. It's a huge cost to pull somebody off shift, to pull them in a place where you can help to work on their thinking and their development and still operate the business, because now you've just doubled your labor costs, right, for a particular shift. We have an unwavering commitment to do it. So then I get asked, Ethan, what's the secret to your success? It's the same answer to the question that you asked me just now. We just make it intentional to invest in the humanness of people.
I have a myth that I want to run by you. One that is, I've commonly heard, when it comes to owners never quit, or entrepreneurs never quit. We never give up on your business. They say, baby, something we've thought about for so many years, been working on. The numbers are looking very good. What's your thoughts? I mean, obviously, there are times where business is shut down. Let that go, accept that. How do you navigate the waters of this isn't doing well temporarily? This is not doing well ever. I need to stop, or I need to wait, deploy more money, maybe put more miles in. How do you decide, keep it going, temporary, or stop?
So part of the meeting process for us is we take our managers, our supervisors, etc., and we share financial information, performance information with them. We get a pulse and feedback for what they think is going on, what needs to be fixed, etc. Our intent is not financial information, etc. Our intent is to cause them to function as though they're at a boardroom table. So we're using that as a tool for them, right? I give you that point to make this point. When do I know what to do? How do I go about making decisions? For me, it is as simple, yet as involved, as complex, and as complicated as, why did I get in this in the first instance? So in October, we have taken up to 14 team members with us, all expense paid, to a trade show for this industry. And we host them to dinner, and we do tours of the city, and we go to the show, and we intermingle with about 21,000 people each year. And what is that effort all about? Well, we want to expand the thinking of our team members. There's a science to the business that we operate in. It's not just haphazard. And you must believe that you can achieve what you see is being done. I'm not interested in if we have 1,000 stores. I'm interested in the fact that I have team members who think that we can have 1,000 stores. So we make sure we take the time to invest in how our team members think and feel about themselves? I know if I answered the question you answered me. I just wanted to make sure I said what I just said.
Oh, and I appreciate the information. So you look at so many small businesses on their last leg, and they're fighting to try to just keep this business alive. I've dreamed about this for so long, and I'm trying to say, hey, maybe they come to me saying, I need $20,000 to keep me going, $100,000, and I'm looking at their financials, I'm looking at their the environment. And the best case scenario for you is we'll find out the job.
Oh, you're a tough fella.
But there was an example, and I shifted the example. There was this person, she wanted only $1,000. And I said, man, I read that Warren Buffett quote. I still remember that. It may be small to us relatively, but to them, that person we found out 2 months later after giving $1,000, she started working as a front desk receptionist at an insurance company just to pay back that small. Her business literally couldn't pay her a thing. And so she had to shit herself. So to us, that may seem small. And the payments were only like $60, $70. It was very small, short period. But for her, she was struggling so much. It hurts. Her business was such a low profit business. She was making nothing.
Yeah.
And that $1,000 took her over there. She said, I just need to stabilize myself. She works in her business a little less. So how do persons know when it's sometimes I can't stop?
Yeah. So, and now I remember the question where I was going with the answer I was trying to provide, right? So here's the key, Nicholas and Gerald. The key is in working on your business, reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing in the first instance. That's the place of decision making. So that if the financials are generating net losses, if the financing means that you just got to go and get another job, you yourself you don't feel defeated in the thing that you're supposed to be doing. You're just shifting course. It is not easy, because if somebody has put so much effort and energy and elbow grease into getting to the point where they are, and the numbers just ain't working. Sir, as an advisor, if I may be so bold, what I encourage you to find the space to do is to cause that person, before they leave your office, audience, before you leave the banker's office somehow, and to figure out who you are, why were you doing what you're doing, so that when the pain of, okay, it ain't working the way it's fashioned or modeled right now, let's hit the reset button. You don't think that you're the person who failed. It's just that model that failed. And in business, you're gonna have things that will tell you, that ain't working, or okay, that's a glimpse of what could work. And you're gonna have these ebbs and flows in business. But as I was reminded some time back by a quote, there are only two imposters in life: success and failure, because both are temporary. And if you have that mindset, then even when you make the $1 million, you won't go and spend $1.5 million. Or when you're struggling with the $200,000 loss, well, hopefully you don't get the $200,000 in loss, but you won't see this as failure that means that I'm a failure. You see this failure that says, okay, there's something you didn't get right. Let's fix what that is.
And I mean, just to kind of give a personal example. So, and one of my businesses, went from COVID. It's in the service management, and companies closed off. And so coming out of COVID, things, was going well, and then it died off again. And so there were points where we had to try to figure out, do we want to continue on? The weather's bad. You can't get out on the water. You can't do certain things. And we struggled with that for a period, just trying to figure out, is it that we're meant to give this up? And which we found out, is it that we need to go back to why we started and ensure that the way that we're operating is in line with that. And eventually we came to the conclusion that we strayed away from the initial objective. And so over time now, we're sort of reverting back to that. And I think you brought up another great point too, which is, and talk about the myth that you mentioned too about knowing when to give up and that should quit. I think sometimes first to make sure that you're not misaligned. And then once you realize that you're not misaligned and you still have those areas of profession and operations, it's about how do we pivot but stay in alignment, And I think that's perfect example. That's what we did, and in the business that I'm a part of. If you realize that, yes, things weren't operating the way they need to be operated, Yes, we have issues. And then go back to the reason why we started. Sort of put that back to how we're operating, get realigned, and then figure out, does the model in its current form meet that yet? And we realized that it did, and so we had to pivot. And so now we're in the process of doing that. But I think that's, like, again, very, very important. I get.
I will suggest, and please don't stone me, right? But I would suggest, most people don't want to be in business, I found that a lot of people get into business because, like I kind of stumbled into it. I just want a way to diversify my portfolio, or, shucks, just take care of my home. All right, so let me go start this business. Let me sell my cakes, or etc. I would argue that most people want the benefits or the returns of what they think other people who appear to be successful in business have. So when there's this correction that has to happen, or the financial reports are telling you, buddy, this ain't working. It's not telling you that you're not working. What it's telling you to do is to really assess whether you want to be in business or not, one. And if you do, what is that business that you want to be in? And to be clear about that. And to do things like, at JMEL, we make it very clear that even though we sell gasoline and diesel and convenience store items, that is not our business. They are the products of our business. Our business is the development of human beings who sell or help us to sell those things. So when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to demystifying, when it's time to stop this particular thing, it's really going back to the place of, why are you in this thing in the first instance? Do you really want to be in business? Or do you really want the returns that businesses appear to give to its owners?
And I know that we're winding down time, and we appreciate your time, but we've spoken a lot with the myths that we saw.
Yeah.
Is there any myths from your experience that you saw that were debunked very quickly, or you were able to say these actually were correct, or those thoughts that you hear traditionally in the market?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I wasn't speaking as an expert. I was testifying, we would say in church. So all of the myths that we talked about are the ones that either through mentorship before we got started, or, a good, can I say this, a good cut hip while you're in business is the place that I'm speaking from, right? And I default back to the thing that I know why I'm in business, and what I'm in business for. And that is just to bring out the human value in human beings. So there are a couple of things that I kind of noted in preparing for this. And here's one thing that I'd like to help those listening with. If you can't work for somebody else, don't work for yourself.
I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs would agree with that. I mean, explain that. That's a very simple.
It was really going through it.
Yeah, because most I shouldn't say most, I don't have statistics to prove it, but I know of many people who got into business, man, I just can't wait for nobody else. That's very true. Right? And the minute you hear yourself say that, you should, please don't take your hard-earned saved money and go and start a business. Because working for yourself, working where you're the person who makes the final decisions, owning a business will expose what was causing you to feel as though you couldn't work for somebody else. And here's the problem. You have all the risk now. You can't blame the boss. All the risk, your house, your property, and all your savings gone. And so should I start a business because I find that nobody understands me? I can't wait for other people. People don't know how to talk to me. This ain't making no sense because I'm making enough money. I'm working hard and the other person getting the credit. Please, I beg of you, before you take your hard-earned investment dollars and determine that you're going to work for yourself or start a business, stop, figure out what it is or why you can't work for somebody else, because if you don't solve that, you're going to have bigger problems. In the business, and this is the final thing I would give, and this is especially for maturing businesses, meaning just getting started, and you're in that first 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 years, you need help. You cannot do it on your own as an entrepreneur, whether you're a sole proprietor or even if you are in partnership, you need help. What do I mean by that? I advise people all the time, get a BOG. I don't mind if you're selling cakes, you envision that these cakes, I don't know why I'm picking a cake selling people today.
That's my mind.
Yeah. You envision this being something that you figure out, if I can make $10,000 a year from this, I'm happy with that. Get a BOG, a board. Yeah, I'm going to explain because it's a board of governance. In big corporate, board of directors for those, same idea, but let your board of governance have 3 elements to it. 1, somebody who believes in you. So I don't mind what businesses you're running right now. If you don't have a board of governance, hire me. But find somebody who believes in you. Secondly, on that board of governance, make sure there's somebody who believes in the vision that you have. Notice there's a difference. Nicholas, man, you're a great guy. I want to support your effort. But Nicholas, that vision that you're carrying, I think that's a great solution for XYZ. You want to find those 2 people. And the third person that you want to be, at minimum, is somebody who is results and bottom line driven. Because it's the complement of the 3 of those that brings the strength to the support that you need. And you may be one of those persons, by the way. But they're the persons who can ask you why, who can challenge what you're doing, who can hold you accountable. And ideally, they should have some investment or risk in the business as well. And I recommend that because we are so driven by as individuals and as business owners, etc. This is my idea, that we lose alignment and don't even know we lost alignment.
Yep, I agree that completely. There's a company, a Bahamian company, Falto Limited, owned by Glenn Fowler. She's a successful company. And I remember when they making so many decisions as a couple, her and her husband for the company, and they got this board of advisory. And they did an advisory board. I mean, the person she got on, Muckamucks, and they were stressing her right out. Yeah. They were challenging her to the point where she said, I'm going to go back to school and get some more information. But they unlocked the whole room she didn't see before. They opened a whole door that she didn't think of, and the business just skyrocketed since. And my husband's business has done very well. And if you saw in the paper, they raised a good amount of money with that success, that opening of arenas that came from that board of advisory and meeting persons, getting mentors and networking. So I completely agree with you. And board of advisory, with the board of government, with the board of directors, I tell my audience, take time to get information, get knowledge, and network. There's these, and I know I keep bringing up Warren Buffett, but they are saying that he's saying billionaires won't give you money, they won't really just give you the job, but they'll always give you time and knowledge. You're seeking the time and knowledge, you can get the other 2 from there. So I take that very serious. I think that's very good advice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to be very clear too, Nicholas, just a fine point of distinction. If you call them a board of advisors, make sure that they can speak to you and you will not just hear them and dismiss them, but they can speak to you and cause you to behave differently. Right? And that's why I call it governance board, and I call it directors or even advisors. And I'm only making the point because I happen to know the case that you just cited very well, or well enough to be able to speak to it as well, right? So when you find that person who believes in you, that will be the person you go to less, but only in times when you're making decisions as the visionary for the direction or the resetting of your organization. When you find that person who believes in the vision, they're the ones who are going to expand your mind, your access, etc. They're going to say, well, you don't have to do it in that way because we can have greater impact by doing it this way. And you listen to them, and as painful as it may be sometimes, you take the advice and take the action and you execute. When you have that person who is results driven, they're going to keep you focused around whether you should have a slush account for entertainment or not on your P&L. Yeah? They're going to help you to have that balance of being able to achieve the results of the thing that you set out to achieve. But they have to be people that you will listen to and take their advice and put it into action. So if your husband or your wife is one of your board of governors, so to speak, or for governance, but you could swing them, because even though they tell you you need 2 signatories and you figure, well, all you got to do is rub his head. All I got to do is cook a favorite meal and you could get around that or delay it or postpone it. Wrong person. For that very reason, right? You want somebody who has advice that you will follow.
For where this podcast is going and what we're trying to accomplish in Mastering Finance, you being the first guest on the show, it shows the testimony of what we're trying to achieve. We want a practical knowledge, like just short knowledge and just theory. We want a practical knowledge that has been through the mud, who has overcome those hurdles you've dealt with on the customer level, just the Bahamians coming in and tourists coming in, as well as you dealt with the governance level. You dealt with governments, or you dealt with other countries, external franchises. You dealt with competitors sharing different parents, so companies. So you had to overcome so much, and so we appreciate you've taken time on this Saturday to deal with us today and provide information to Bahamians and regionally and globally. And so, are there any things you'd like to impart on the listener about your experience or your suggestion?
Thank you guys for having me, man. I'll come back anytime you think I can add value to your conversation and for your audience. I think the nugget of advice that I'd love to leave is that you're more powerful than you give yourself credit for. The day you get rid of the fact that as a human being, there's something that is tucked inside of you that the good Lord himself placed you here to deliver to the earth, that's the day when you will cause that value that you bring to be appreciated. How do you cause it to be appreciated? By listening to podcasts like this, by doing the research, plan properly. Please don't be anxious, because there's something that you do that no other human being can do. And there are people like Jarrell Hall and Nicholas, who, I do know your last name, Higgs, Nicholas Higgs, who I believe are all committed to helping you to be the best version of yourself. Thanks, guys, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So to our listener, thank you so much for listening to this episode about myths of entrepreneurship. And so we're thankful for you for coming. And please tune into all our social medias for further updates on our next episodes so you can gather that information. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, guys. I'm Ethan, President and Chief Cook and Bottle Washer of JMEL Enterprises Limited. We're here in the Bahamas, and we distribute fuel and convenience store items. It's been my esteemed pleasure to be a part of the show that Jarrell and Nicholas are doing in Mastering Finance, and to have the opportunity to speak to debunking the myths of business. And it's really a pleasure of mine and an honor of mine to recommend this podcast to you. I don't think that there's enough of it going on, and to come across 2 young men who want to make a difference in how business is administered in our country and in the space of business, I think is just the most incredible thing. So, hey, if you make the time, this is worth the listen. Mastering Finance. I'm out.